Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the Bundesliga show, brought to you by Over the Bar, of course. We're back this evening for a full football fantasy show. I'm being accompanied, as per usual, by Runa of Bully News. Runa, how are you doing this evening?
Very good, Roy. I'm still feeling a bit hot here in Denmark. We're not used to the heat. It's nearly 30 degrees here, so at least it's a bit better now. But it's been a really hot day.
Right. Well, it's not too bad in Sheffield. Actually, it's been quite wet and horrible what we're used to. So that's much nicer for me. Not that I have been outside because of my dreadful ankle. But anyway, yeah, we're not here to talk about my fat ankle or indeed the weather. We're here for some fantasy football stuff. So first and foremost, Runa, what did you make of match week 2? Were there any surprises for you in terms of players getting big scores from the fantasy football leagues?
More like surprises in terms of players not getting big scores. And of course, I'm referring to Leverkusen's home game against Augsburg, which was a bit of a freak game. Everyone expected Leverkusen to win, and they also dominated the game and created the most chances. But yeah, as we all know, they lost the game, so that didn't go according to plan. But there were a few other surprises too. Gladbach and Leipzig only drew, and of course, Manuel Riemann had another free game for Bochum in goal, picking up 18 points. We saw him do that a few times last season too. So the fact that both Riemann and Soller from Bochum did so well was kind of surprising too in terms of getting really big hauls.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just before we go into it, then we're going to go through all the positions in a similar format to what we did last week, but to a more detailed extent. We'll also be covering goalkeepers. And this week, because we're doing a fuller show, we've obviously got the screen up for you all. So when Runa's kind of talking through things, I'll be trying to find those players just so you can see it visually. We'll also have the banner going down the bottom, so you'll not be able to miss anything in terms of the players that we describe. And indeed, we are in partnership with Runa's very own Bully News in regards to our partnership and the show this season. So, Bully News is the number one source for German football content. So you get daily news, rumors, fantasy football, of course, Bundesliga stuff, long reads, top lists, and much more. So go check out Runa's Bully News. Either go find them on Twitter or go visit their website. And of course, please do drop us a like, comment, and subscribe. I think we got a record number of likes actually on last week's video. So smash us some more likes, please, guys. It really is appreciated. In and around the 30 mark would be fantastic. Comment along. If you've got questions for Runa, get them in. We'll answer them live. We've got a little bit longer tonight, so that's brilliant. And please do press that red button, get yourself subscribed for loads more content. Bundesliga, Spanish football, English league football, a lot. So you'd be missing out if you didn't. Right then, so Runa, we'll start with goalkeepers tonight. So we didn't obviously cover them last week, but we'll be doing the same format as we did last week. So we'll have a budget pick, a mid-price pick, and indeed a premium pick. So I'll get that going up at the bottom of the screen for everyone to see now. So I will let you crack on and let the viewers know who they want to be looking at for goalkeepers for match week 3 and beyond.
Yeah. Well, just to start off with, in general, when we're talking about goalkeepers, we often see them in pairings, and if you're using the Christensen-Swolov pairing that I suggested in our draft show, then you should be aware that games collide from next week. So if you don't make any changes in the goalkeeping department this week, it's something you should have on your mind for next week. And as I've previously suggested, you could swap out Swolov and get Paulinka from Werder, as he and Christensen have different kickoff times in the weeks to come. So just something to keep in mind to start off with. But yeah, proceeding with my budget pick, Janis Blazwicz from RB Leipzig, 0% owned goalkeeper, who will be filling in for Peter Gulassi, who's been ruled out with a minor muscle injury. So yeah, Blazwicz is actually an experienced goalkeeper. I think he's 31, but will be his Bundesliga debut. Joined the club from Heracles over the summer. So he's a bit of an unknown quantity, but he plays for a good team and is playing behind a solid defense. So So it's a good option if you're looking for a short-term pick. If you want a cheap long-term option, consider Christensen and Pavlenka, as I said. And yeah, my mid-price pick this week is Manuel Riemann, and yeah, he's probably the goalkeeper in the game with the highest chance of hauling. As I said, in the beginning, he picked up 18 points against Bayern last week, and he also had some really crazy games last season. I even think he scored above 20 points in a single game at some point. Of course, he saved a penalty last week, but 15 of the points actually came from saved shots, and it's quite impressive that he actually conceded 3 goals in that game and still managed to pick up 18 points. So it just tells us something about how important saved shots are. And getting him this week when Bochum face Bayern is obviously a huge gamble. But even if Bochum will most likely lose again, he's likely to make a lot of saves, just as he did last week. So yeah, maybe you don't want it this week, but he's certainly a player to keep in mind.
Yeah, a bit of a scary prospect when I think about the first time that Bayern played Bochum last season. What was it, 7-0, wasn't it? So yeah,
very much so.
Certainly feels like a gamble pick, but certainly one that could work out if he's saving shots left, right, and centre.
Yeah. I mean, I usually go for the cheap goalkeepers myself, but I think in that category he's pretty unique because he's one of the only goalkeepers who can pick up that many points from a single game. And yeah, my premium pick is Mark Flecken. And if you want a more expensive goalkeeper, I don't think it's worth it personally. But for example, if you want to go with just one starting goalkeeper instead of 2, you might want to pick a more solid one and more consistent and reliable one. And I think Flecken is usually pretty reliable and consistent. I know he messed up against Dortmund last week, but I think that was just a one-off after his impressive last season. And the good thing with Flecken is that he plays for a pretty good team, but he should still get the chance to make saves because Freiburg are more likely to concede shots than Bayern or Dortmund, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely makes a big difference when Flecken is not in net for Freiburg. The drop between Flecken and the backup keeper, whose name eludes me, there is a big gap. So I think the fact that he did mess up, by all means, and it did kind of put the team into a bit of panic mode, I think can be forgiven, can't he? Because he is usually a very, very reliable goalkeeper. Just very quickly commenting in from our usual fantasy watcher, Blue Danube Joe. So I hope you're doing well this evening, Joe. Has asked the question, or your thoughts basically, Runa, on experimenting with 2 1 million goalies to have more fun for the rest of your squad. So what are your thoughts on this, Runa? Is Joe missing out on some good points from goalkeepers, or do you think that's a wise decision?
Well, personally, I'm rolling with just one starting goalkeeper at the moment, but I have one that actually plays and one that doesn't. And I think if you're going to go with 2 1 million goalies, you only have to pay. You have to pay less than 3 million more to get Christensen or Blaswich for this week. So I think that 3-4 million or what you're talking about is probably better spent on getting at least one starting goalkeeper from my perspective, because I mean they goalkeepers usually pick up points. They very rarely pick up minus points. So it's like maybe 5 or 10 points a week just to have a starting goalkeeper. I think that's worth it if you pick a cheap one.
Very good. Yeah, good stuff. So any more questions whilst you're watching live this evening, just pop them in the chat. Doesn't matter if you think your knowledge of the Bundesliga is so basic, if you're doing really bad so far in the league. We'll have a little check up once we've done defenders on some of the statistics in terms of how myself, Mark and Runa are doing in the bullying over the bar league. We'll have a look at league positions, just a bit of a break up in between. But yeah, any questions, pop in the chat. Myself and Runa, Runa will answer the questions. And yeah, if you're watching, let everyone know. I think we're having a bit of trouble with our Twitter feed in terms of being live on Twitter. So make sure you spread the word that it's only on YouTube at the moment. Right then, Runa, on to defenders then for this week. So again, we'll pop that on the banner below. So we've got our budget, mid-price, and premium. So yeah, over to you for this one.
Yeah, and my budget pick this week is Kylian Sildilia, who I've also mentioned before, 3.3 million, and nailed on to start for Freiburg. Lucas Kübler will remain out for a while. That was confirmed earlier today, meaning that Sildilia should continue on the right side of the fence for at least a few weeks. And yeah, he's one of the best budget options in the game currently, and definitely the best defender in his price category now that Mitchell Weiser and Werder have a tough matchup against Dortmund. And moving on to my mid-price pick, who's a bit of an unsung hero, I think, so far this season, Jonas Hector from FC Köln. He's actually picked up 26 points from 2 games, which is the second most for a defender, only behind Benjamin Pavard, who's also a bit of a surprise at the top of the defender rankings. But yeah, the fact that he actually managed to score 9 points last week in a 2-2 draw with Leipzig indicates that he can do well against any opponent, and even when Köln concede goals and face tough opposition, then he can actually do well. And a lot of his points came from one duels as well. So yeah, a bit of an alternative pick there. My premium pick is Rami Bensebaini this week. I just think he's a great pick this week. He's a short-term pick because Gladbach have Bayern next week. But yeah, they're really informed, Gladbach at the moment, and they're taking on crisis hit Hertha at home on a Friday night fixture. So you can put your star on Bensebaini without any problems. Great option for flexibility, and yeah, proven fantasy asset. He's on penalties and has already scored 2 goals this season. So a great option, and if you can't afford him, then Joe Scally is a cheaper starting option from Gladbach in defense. I would definitely recommend getting at least one Gladbach defender for this week.
Yeah, Gladbach have been pretty impressive, to be fair, at the start of this season, and Jonas Hector does have a fairly appealing next match because they've got Frankfurt, who have been, they've had a tough start. Obviously, playing Bayern, Real Madrid in the space of however many days is never an easy task. But obviously, the draw with Hertha, they didn't impress there either, did they? So yeah, it could be a good opposition to get Hector in for. Good stuff. So just whilst we're having a bit of a break in between, we can just briefly look at how we've been performing so far. Very early days yet. So far in the Bully News and Over the Bar League. So I think very briefly glancing, we have about 400 odd people in our league. If you're watching along and you're part of the league, drop a message in the comments. Let us know what your rank is. Don't feel embarrassed if it's fairly low. So I am, after a really positive start, I've dropped quite a lot. So I'm back into my standard position of last season, which is 163rd. I seem to be just nailed on to finish there every season. I'm sure I was there throughout all of last season. And Rune, let's have a look where you are, unless you know off the top of your head where you are.
No, I don't, but you have to go a bit far down, I think. It's not really going according to plan for me. I can't remember, but I'm around 1,000 in the world at the moment.
Right.
So not as good as I hoped. I usually keep inside the top 100 at least, but I really missed out on Thuram from the start of the season. I went with Modeste instead, and then he didn't play, and I couldn't afford Thuram last week, and yeah, that one really hurt, especially since I had recommended Thuram in the draft show and said I had a good feeling about him. But I hope someone else really managed to get the most out of him.
Good stuff. Our top 3 at the moment then. So let us know if this is your fantasy team name. We've got number 1, fantasy-team Amen with 310 points. In second place, friend of the show, Gladiator 11, aka FBL Thinker. So he's had a really good start to the season. So well done to you if you're watching FBL Thinker. And third place, so FBL Thinker has 303 points. And in third place on 300 is Red Munich. So if you're any of those 3, congratulations. Good start to the season. Keep it up. And hopefully you can join us on some of these shows as the season goes on. I would probably, again, have to scroll a long way to find where Mark is, as he's not available this evening. But yeah, I don't think he's had a spectacular start to the season either. Right, so let's move on from the woes of how we're performing and move on to our midfielders. So some good points to be scored here, Runa. So again, we've got ourselves a very interesting budget pick. Indeed, I like that one, but I'll let you go through it in a sec. Mid-price and again premium. I guess no surprise on that one. So yeah, talk us through your midfielders.
Yeah, my budget pick is Jamie Bino Giddens this week, and yeah, we all saw that he came on to score last week, and he really provided some spark up front for Dortmund in that game against Freiburg that they seemed to be losing at the time that he came on, and I think he has a pretty realistic chance of starting this week, and they have a home game against Werder, so not a too bad fixture for Dortmund. And yeah, with this low price, I think even if it doesn't start, Adeyemi is back, so maybe Adeyemi comes straight into the starting 11 again. But even if he doesn't start, then he can still come on to do well. And as we saw last week, and he costs just 1 million, so he frees up a lot of funds for more expensive options. So maybe a good cheap option there. And my mid-price pick this week is Ritsu Doan, who, he did really well on match day 1. Also scored in the Pokal before that. Didn't have his best game against Dortmund, but yeah, that was a tough fixture. Freiburg have much easier games now. They face Stuttgart and Bochum in the next 2, so Freiburg are one of the teams to really target, I think. And considering his potential, I actually think he's a bit underpriced. I think it's difficult to find a player with his potential in that price category. And finally, my premium pick, I often talk about Jonas Hofmann on the show, and I'll do so again because, he was among our suggestions last week too, and scored for Gladbach, the 1-1 equalizer against Schalke, and this week a Friday night standalone fixture against Hertha. I mean, it's the perfect game to put your star on Jonas Hofmann on Friday evening. So I wouldn't dare get going into this match day without him.
Yeah, as everyone will be able to see, because I'm sharing obviously my screen for my account, and you'll be able to see that Jonas Hofmann and Ritsu Doan are already in my team. So I've already got two. I've got 2 of your picks from midfield for this week already, Runa. So I'm behaving myself well there. I feel like I'm kind of aligned to your thinking, which is brilliant. So yeah, fingers crossed that they both have a really good weekend. Lovely stuff. So we shall move on. Just before we do, some nice comments about from Abdullah saying that he's playing the Bundesliga fantasy football game for the first time, doing really well. And thanks to OTB and indeed Bully News for the news and guidance. So you're very welcome. I hope you're having a great time playing the game so far. There's a lot of people who are just coming to this game and really enjoying the game and indeed the league. So that's brilliant that we've got some new people watching and indeed enjoying this fantasy football. So moving on to our last section of the show and indeed of this evening. So we've got strikers, always a hot topic, Runa. So obviously, again, same format as per usual with strikers and indeed with every other position. So we got budget, mid-price and premium. And yeah, do you want to just run us through it? I'm sure there's lots of other people that you wanted to include in this list, but it's always a tricky one doing strikers.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, my first pick is Florian Dietz from FC Köln at 1.5 million, and I think few players have offered better value for money than Dietz so far. 21 points after the first 2 games, and he scored against Leipzig, and I can see that he scored this evening too in the Conference League. So that's fantastic. 2 goals for him already. So yeah, he's done really well replacing Anthony Modeste up front. So I think at that price you can't really find anything better. Nailed on to start and doing well.
Yeah, sailed in well, and often a lot of people have mentioned a couple of the signings in regards to maybe Tigges from Dortmund maybe trying to take up that mantle. Obviously, Ut was injured at the start of the season. I'm not sure if he still is, and indeed Damian, but I guess he's a different type of striker, isn't he? So, yeah, Florian Dietz has done well. And again, he's in my team already. So, yeah, great
nice.
start. Great start again. So, yeah, onto your mid-price, Runa.
Yeah, and that's Marcus Thuram. And yeah, I feel so bad about not having him already, as I said. But yeah, I think he's a player that you really need this week. And I know that the Gladbach are facing Bayern next week, but with the form Thuram is in, I don't want to miss out on him again. And much like Hoffman, you can, and Benzabaini in principle, you can put your star player marks on them, and yeah, they can do really well, as we saw last week. Thuram really had a great game there, so definitely worth picking up in my opinion. And yeah, my premium pick is Jamal Musiala, who's arguably the league's most informed player at the moment, and he costs much less than other Bayern assets such as Mane and Müller and Gnabry, who's a bit doubtful too. But with the form Musiala is in, and considering Bayern don't have to worry about playing in other competitions at the moment, I can't see him rotated out of the squad anytime soon. And considering he's actually doing better than the more expensive assets, then he might be worth picking up if you have an extra transfer and want to spend the money on elsewhere that you would usually pay to get the likes of Mane or Müller.
Yeah, and especially with the fact that they are, playing Bochum, who have had tricky start to the season, haven't they? He just glides past players, in great form, and you can't see why Nagelsmann would be dropping him anytime soon. So yeah, picked by 30% of players, so I guess fairly high percentages there, which is great for the young man that he's doing so well. But yeah, any other names that you want to shout out, Runa, with regards to strikers? Before I think we've got a question that we'll come to in a minute.
Yeah, sure. I think Michael Gregoritsch is really good value for money too, from Freiburg, 7.7 million. He's had a great start to the season and just nail on to start. And as we talked about earlier, Freiburg have a few good games coming up. So he should be able to do well. And also, I think Wolfsburg could actually do pretty well this week. I didn't include any Wolfsburg players in my picks, but I think Lucas Mecha and Omar Mamouche are some of the players that you could consider up front. I also wanted to mention Patrick Wimmer, but he's out with an injury. And it looks like Josip Brekalo will replace him, so that's a differential for you there, potentially. And also, one last player to mention is Anthony Modeste. Maybe this will be the game where he opens his goal-scoring account for Dortmund. His debut wasn't impressive by any means, but it's a pretty good fixture for him, so who knows?
Very good. Question that we've got come in from Aldo. Put it on screen here for you there, Runa. So basically the big question that a lot of people are probably trying to get to the bottom of: keep or sell Schick. And Aldo is very nicely put in some statistics about the fact that Leverkusen are playing Hoffenheim, who are conceding many goals. Has a very good record against him. So I mean, Aldo's done all the hard work for you there, Runa. So what do you reckon?
I'm keeping Schick personally. Like Aldo writes there, he has a good record against Hoffenheim, and he's a proven goal scorer in general. I mean, last week's game against Augsburg, it wasn't like Augsburg were really bossing the game and playing Leverkusen out the pitch. It was Leverkusen dominating, and I think they were at around 3 expected goals, and Augsburg were at around 1. I mean, Rafael Gikiewicz had an outstanding game in goal. So that wasn't the day. It wasn't to be that day for Patrick Schick, and it wasn't on match day 1 either. He missed some pretty big chances there, but I'm at least giving him this game to show the true goal scorer he is.
Very good. So a bit of faith being shown there, Runa. So not too cutthroat attitude. So there we go. So hopefully that answers your question, Aldo, and hopefully you keep faith with Schick. I've got him in my team as well, actually, so I'm convinced. I might well keep him in myself. Another question that's come in, so we'll get that answered. So Jeff has asked any insight into the Gieselman, Ryerson, Trimmel rotation at Union Berlin. So far, it's been hard to know which two will start. Runa, you're often a man in the know, and obviously Bully News do a lot of predicted lineups, don't you, on the website? So have you got any thoughts on this one for Jeff?
No, I agree with Jeff. I think it's very hard to predict who will start at the moment. I think Ryerson started in the Pokal because Gieselman wasn't fully fit there, and he did extremely well. So I think Fischer couldn't really drop him after that performance, and then he continued that form and has had a very strong start to the season. So I think Gieselman and Trimmel look to be the starting pair from the start of the season, but then Ryerson has just, been performing really well. So at the moment, I'm keeping my hands off them. I sold Gieselman last week, and then he actually did start, but then again, I don't want to have that feeling of will he start or will he not. So. And especially now that they have a game against Leipzig this week, I think it's probably best to wait and see how that develops.
Yeah, probably a good thing to avoid those players then at the moment, Jeff. But very good question. I hope you're enjoying the show. And I think we've got another question in from Jeff, so let's get that up as well for you, Runa. Blaswich a better play than Christiansen this week?
I think it's a bit tough. Christensen should have a better chance of making saves, but he should also. Hertha will most likely concede at least a couple of goals against Gladbach, whereas Leipzig are probably more likely to keep a clean sheet. And Union. It's not like Union aren't creating chances, so Blaswich should also be able to make some saves during that game. I don't really trust Hertha at the moment. So if we're talking about this match day alone, I think Blaswich is probably the better pick.
Yeah, I actually had a stinker last week because I swapped in Christensen and he only got 5 points. I think we can see it on the screen actually. And my other keeper starting was Swallow, who got 16 points. So that was a bad swap for me. Indeed. So yeah, some interesting thoughts, particularly on the keepers, because it's obviously all about how you manage your kind of tactic with that, as we kind of had earlier, whether it's all about having two really cheap goalkeepers or the kind of one starting and then one cheaper version.
But if I could just say something about the goalkeeper situation, didn't Christensen play before Swolov last week? Because then, in principle, you could have started out with Christensen and then put in Swolov because he had a later kickoff time.
Nightmare. Yeah, quite possibly I could have done that. Yeah,
just something to keep in mind. In general, with this game, there was a guy commenting that he missed out on starring players in the first match day. So yeah, that's a big part of the game to remember to change the your star men and to swap players in and out and to pick the players with the earliest kickoff times from the start of the match day.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, Runa. Obviously, being really on the ball with those star players and making those changes. And you mentioned changes to the formation as well, which allowed me to kind of get in Jonas Hoffman for last weekend was very important. Right then, so I don't think we've got any more questions coming in. So we'll bring things to a close very nicely on about half an hour. So that's what we always kind of go for on our full episode of this. So Bruno, thanks as ever for your input and your analysis from goalkeeper to forwards. Loads of options for people to pick. So if you're watching tonight, first and foremost, thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you got a load of good insights and tips for match week 3 coming up. and hope that you do really well with your fantasy football points. Of course, just a little bit of admin to finish off the show. So make sure you go over to our Twitter, which is obviously over the bar FB and over the bar extra. Go find Runa's Bully News Twitter account as well, which can be easily found just by punching in Bully News into the search icon, and go visit the website as well, otbfootball.net, where all our articles are stored. They're tweeted out all the time as well, so you can never miss out on them. And again, as per usual, please do like the show. As I mentioned, this show did really well last week, and we're really, really pleased with how many people are getting involved in the fantasy football element. Our fantasy football drafts, one of the best performing videos that we've ever done on the show, especially one that wasn't a watch along. So absolutely enjoying the love that we've had so far for the fantasy football. So I really hope that you guys are enjoying what we're doing. Love all the comments. If you missed out on us being live, pop your questions in the comment section below. Runa's fantastic at being on the ball with these things. So during the week, he'll get onto it and answer your questions. So he'll try and answer them before the weekend if you get them in tonight or tomorrow. And of course, please do press that red button and subscribe to the channel. We're getting a lot of good momentum right now, and we're hoping that people can enjoy our content and join our little community and family that we are building up together. So thanks a lot, Runa, for this evening. Look forward to catching you again next week for a shorter version of the show. And thank you all for watching this evening. Hope you have a lovely evening and indeed weekend, and we'll check you next week. Cheers all.
Yeah, bye-bye.